Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Big League Breakdowns as we are here for episode number 13, Lucky 13, here on this beautiful April day. Brutal, by the way. My name is Tyler.
Brutal.
Joining me, as always, John, Will, and Bobby behind the camera. Boys, we're starting to get to that point in the year where stuff is actually it actually matters. We couldn't say that for the first 3 weeks. Will's
I'm training John. I'm training John well.
Yeah. Again, Will isn't satisfied until it's the All-Star break. That's when he'll be satisfied. But we do have a lot to talk about. We will be looking at some of the early teams that are struggling, some of the teams that are coming out of the gates hot. And yeah, we will get into that. First, want to start off, though, with something that happened today as we're recording April 22nd. And check this in a box of things I've never seen before on a baseball field. Aaron Boone is ejected because of a fan yelling at the umpire, and he was pretty emphatic about it. I think Bobby does have the clip for this one, but it was pretty funny. I don't know if you're playing audio with it or not, or I am. I can commentate it over. Okay, so I have that queued up for him. We'll take a look at it because I think it's just absolutely hilarious. And again, something I've never seen on a baseball field before. Very interesting stuff.
All right, hold on one second. Sorry.
Oh, I thought I queued you up perfectly.
You did.
Oh, come on, Mr. Producer.
What am I looking at?
Not the right thing.
Oh, hold on. Hold on.
Man.
That is Bobby's setup right there.
I just realized.
This is why we give Bobby absolutely zero profit. He gets absolutely nothing of our $0 because he can't even produce the show correctly. There we go. And
sometimes when you try to make things easier for yourself, you make things harder at the same time. It's actually incredible. But anyway, sorry about that.
Was Hunter Wendelstedt behind the plate.
It is. It is.
Yes.
Right, I'll start this over. Here we go.
Here we go. Aaron Boone. It's like, all right.
Wow, we're not going to need a John Boy breakdown of that one. We got a very clear.
Shout out, John Boy.
There you go.
So what's fantastic about that is the camera's on Boone, so you know he doesn't say a thing. That's hilarious.
It was that dude.
That guy.
Oh, dude, it's the best. It's just the best. This clip has been a lot of fun to watch.
So, first inning of this game, and look, Aaron Boone has a kind of a reputation with, he'll get thrown out, time and time again from umpires, but this one's ridiculous. Also, it's the first inning, it's bad. To add insult to injury, they lost 2-0 in the ninth off of a ninth inning home run to the A's. So overall, not a great day for Aaron Boone and the Yankees, and I'm sure John, the Orioles fan, is very choked up about that. But I've never seen that in my life, or really anything close to that. Where I'm even trying to think too. Has a manager been ejected because somebody in the dugout has been yelling at the coach and they had mistaken it for the manager? I legitimately have never seen this before.
So
in the
John
dugout
might be able to help me on this, because not exactly what you're saying, but I remember something X number of years ago. I don't remember when, but it was Brett Gardner, who I believe was ejected from a game, and the umpire thought he was saying something, but someone else in the dugout was, so threw out the wrong person. Now, I think Gardner at the time was doing this thing of he took the bat and was banging it against the roof of the dugout, and then nothing happened, and then all of a sudden, and then he got ejected. I mean, many players have been ejected for petty things, but to be ejected for nothing has happened only a handful of times.
Didn't Beltray get ejected for a situation like that where he was in the dugout?
No.
I seem to remember that.
No, he was in the on-deck circle.
No,
Okay,
not that one. No, not that one. No, not that one. There's
I don't
another one.
remember.
There's another clip of like he's in the dugout and he got tossed and he started arguing that I feel like it was because it wasn't him. He was just standing on the steps similar to what Boone was doing. There's a clip of it. I'll have to find it, but I think he got
I
ejected
think
for
you
something
might
similar.
be right. I can kind of picture it. I just don't remember the reason why he was.
I mean, the batting circle is an all time clip, so that I remember, but it's not that situation.
Christian Walker for the Diamondbacks 2 years ago, I want to say, I think got ejected for clapping. The umpire thought it was being
Yes, I
sarcastic.
do remember that. Yeah,
And of course, we have JT Realmuto. And we have JT Realmuto not this spring training, but last year's spring training get ejected because he was trying to get the ball from the up, drops his glove because he thought the umpire threw it.
Funniest clip. Oh my god!
If that happened in a regular season game, there would have been all hell would have broke loose. Like, thank God for that umpire happened in spring training.
Well, my whole thing with that one is why would you throw somebody out in spring training? Nobody's taking it seriously. Everybody's trying to get their sea legs
asked
with
that
them.
to Angel Hernandez this year.
I guess he
needs spring training. Okay,
giving a hard time.
He needs spring, winter, end of fall.
He needs
Thanksgiving training.
Period.
Okay.
He needs training.
Yeah, he needs umpire training. Yeah, dude, it was just so funny. And yeah, shout out Aaron Boone, dude. He puts on a show. We were just talking last week about him doing the Laz Diaz rung up. Yeah, like he puts on a show. I'll give it to him. But had to start off with that because again, just something we have never seen.
Technically fan interference.
What?
Want to be technical here? Fan interfered with the
fan.
umpire's call?
I mean, on a technicality, maybe. Yeah. I mean,
technically, it's fan interference.
Technically. Let's move on to Houston. Do we have a problem? The Astros are not good, and I don't think any of us really expected that in the division that they're in. I mean, the Mariners are there, and Rangers, and it is good division, right? But this is a team that we know how successful they've been. They were my World Series pick for the AL. They start the season 7-16, and there is a lot of issues going down there, and a lot of aspects down there in Houston. Will, I'll start with you. To you, what is the main problem right now in Houston?
The main problem, I actually think, is the bullpen, which is not what I expected going into the episode. Obviously, they've had a boatload of starting pitching injuries to the point that if you take all their starting pitchers on the IL, every one of them would be a great person to have in a whole other rotation. Like if you had a team right now, if everyone's injured list were facing one another, Astros would dominate because they have Valdez, now Christian Javier, Luis Garcia, was it Jose Urquidy and Lance McCullers? Like, it's amazing how many injuries they have to their pitching staff right now. But that being said, pitching as a whole is the issue. There are last in the AL with a 5.10 ERA, 29th in baseball. They have allowed the most runs in the AL. They've walked the most in the AL. They are last in WHIP, which is walks, hits, and innings pitched. But when you break down the ERAs between the pitching staff and the bullpen, I have their starters ERA is actually 4.5 right now, and their bullpen ERA is 5.66 with your two back-end guys, Hader and Presley, supporting 8.38 ERAs and 8.31. Yes, it's easy for a relief pitcher, especially early in the season, to have their numbers balloon from a bad outing or two. But I looked at also how many of their outings this season they've allowed runs. Hader has allowed runs in 5 of his 11 outings this season, and Presley in 5 of his 10 outings, which is way too high, especially for a potential setup or closer's role. You need them to be good like 70% plus of the time. And just to give you an idea of how you can have a bad ERA, but maybe it's not quite as bad as you think. Brian Abreu for them has a 4.91 ERA. Not terrible, but you want him again to be a back-end guy. And so hopefully it's a lot better. But he's only allowed runs in 2 of his 11 outings. So he obviously just had 2 bad outings, and otherwise he's been really good. But having a 5.66 ERA in your bullpen, especially when we were saying ahead of time their bullpen was going to be their strength, especially after signing Hader, that's the big thing they need to fix. They're going to get their starters back from the IL. The bullpen, though, they're kind of stuck with the guys they have.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say you brought it up at the end there when we had talked about the Astros in the preseason look in and stuff. We had said, look, Hader's going to come in and he's going to be a great backhand piece for them, and we know how good he is, how he's been through his career. Ryan Presley has also just been getting lit up this year, so it is very odd. And I mean, yeah, the stat that is the craziest to me really is the whip when you consider, Ronel Blanco threw 17, was it, innings without giving up a hit. And for their whip to be as high as it is and as bad as it is, just really is a testament to how bad their pitching is. Because, when you have a guy like Blanco who's just been dealing, that number should not be that high. And I think you look at all the numbers pitching wise for the team, and it is just not good. As you mentioned, the bullpen ERA has just been awful. The other thing I looked at too is like they're not getting strikeouts. They're 28th in strikeout to ball ratio, and that's only ahead of Colorado and the White Sox, which those two teams are going to be, the bottom feeders in every stat this year. But John, I mean, I'm sure you're going to piggyback off this with the pitching. Is there anything else you want to add on that side of things for Houston?
Well, when you look at Josh Hader, he's given up 9 earned runs, or 9 runs, all of them earned. And then his what is it? His home runs that he's given up. He's only given up 1 home run this entire season so far. And then you also have Brian Abreu with a 4.91 ERA, who has given up 6 runs, all of them earned. And then, but really in their pitching rotation, you have Hunter Brown, who has a 9.68 ERA with 3 earned runs, 3 runs, all of them earned. The pitching is the issue here with the Astros. Their lineup right now of from top to bottom, except for Jose Abreu, has a really good batting average and good on base percentage, and their numbers across the board on offense are really good. So when it comes down to it, it is 100% the pitching that is costing them games, specifically the bullpen. So it's one thing that I thought was interesting. This was brought up on MLB Network. I'm curious how much Dusty Baker, how much they are missing him in situations like this. He is a guy that would have, gone in there and would have really, pulled the team together, I feel, and would have done a good job with that. Whereas their manager now, Joe, I can't pronounce his name, Joe Espada. I probably butchered that. I apologize.
No,
anyway,
you got it.
Okay. It doesn't seem like he's able to really pull this team together, and it's April. We've seen the Astros bounce back, but this is not a young team anymore. We also have to keep that in mind. Their core is not the same age they were in 2017 when everything really took off for that organization. This modern day dynasty that is the Houston Astros. So maybe this is them showing their age. Maybe it's the fact that they are missing Dusty. Who knows? But at the end of the day, the numbers don't lie, and the bullpen and the pitching need to get better in order for the Astros to save their season.
Well, I mean, I kind of agree with Will though on this point. Like, you literally take 5 of their starters that are on the IL right now, and you put that into a rotation. I'd take that rotation against almost anybody in the league. Like, that's how bad it is right now. as we already mentioned. I mean, they get Verlander back this week, which is obviously going to be huge for them. He pitched on a couple days ago and got the win. But Urquidy hasn't played
And
yet this year after an injury. Good.
And Ty, you're right. You're right. When it comes to getting those starters back, they're going to get them back. But but what happens late in games when your starter isn't in there anymore, and you have to rely on your bullpen? What are you going to do, especially in the
I,
playoffs? We've seen the
but I
bullpen make
mean,
all the difference.
I get that, but you'd have to imagine that at some point they are going to figure it out. And it's tough to say when you look at the numbers now, but um, there is guys that have been around for a while. They're guys with a lot of pedigree. They will turn it around. I'm sure Hader will. I'm sure Presley will. So I think they'll get it back. But I mean, dude, your Urquidy's been out. Framber has been out, and now that was elbow inflammation. So hopefully, I don't think we've gotten an update on that from a couple weeks ago. What his status
I
is.
believe
Christian
Framber
Javier.
Valdez is expected to come back. Is not. It's not as a serious thing, really. He could come back
Okay.
fairly soon. I read today.
Okay. I mean, Luis Garcia from last year, Tommy John, like, dude, like, it is really insane. Um, and like on paper, coming into the season, if you looked at their rotation now, it's honestly you wouldn't think it'd be as bad as it is. Like Hunter Brown being as bad as he's been is surprising. He was one of their up and coming stars and starting pitching prospects, but he's really struggled, and it is amazing because if you look, as you said, offensively, they're third in team batting average, they're fifth in OPS, they're fourth in WRC plus. Like they are swinging hot bats outside of Jose Abreu, which I don't know what they're going to do with that first base position if they look to pivot because he's batting um, terrible right now, like
It's
0.68
081.
average. Or
Or it's
yeah,
that.
the 0.68 average, 0.85 slugging percentage.
Okay.
Really, really bad. And they have. I think John Singleton has kind of been playing a little bit more because of this, but that's just not. They're gonna have to maybe go somewhere. But I mean, Altuve's been hitting well. Jordan is, I think, the scariest hitter in baseball, in my opinion. So the offense is gonna continue to be good. It's just can they keep up? Is the
As
question.
Yeah, as
With the
long as
pitching.
you have Jordan, as long as you have Altuve, you have a chance to open up any game. But the problem is, what are you going to do when the other team can respond? We saw this with the
Yeah,
Braves. We saw it against the Rangers. Their bullpen right now can't keep runs off the board.
yeah. I think they will figure it out, and hopefully they do for their sake. But I have to say, I mean, Jordan, Altuve, Bregman, Kyle Tucker, like that is a scary four to have in your lineup. So I think having that will just carry them for as long as they need to. Well, I'll ask you, what do they need to do to turn this around? And I mean, do you think they will? I'm pretty sure I know your answer based off of your logic, but what do you think?
The short answer, yes, they'll turn it around. Now getting into why. The biggest thing I think for the pitching staff is just getting at least two guys back. I know we said they have a long list. You need to replace JP France and Hunter Brown right now. They've allowed 35 of the starters 59 runs that, again, just the starters have given up. So that's astronomically high. You take that away, it's not as bad as it seems. And probably because of their poor performances have led to probably bullpen arms being overused, and that's another reason why ERA probably is shot up. So, like we said, they got Verlander back. They should hopefully be getting Valdez back sooner rather than later. If one other person on the IL can slip back in early May, then you immediately are taking away the two worst options in your starting rotation, and hopefully by then your bullpen is also eased down a bit. I am a strong proponent that numbers will eventually level out to what their norms are for their career, at least roughly what you'd expect. So these ERA numbers are just astronomically high for this talented of a squad. It will correct itself. But back to what you had kind of said before, though, about it was either you or John about needing to stay competitive needing to stay competitive enough so that they can get back into the race when everyone's kind of clicking. It's going to be hard right now because you have the Rangers that are very much off to at least a little bit of a better start than I would have said for them, even though they're probably only a couple games over 500.
One
Mariners
game.
have an easier stretch coming up. So, it's may only be April, but falling 5-6 games back in division can be a lot. And they're second worst record in the American League right now, even in the wild card race. Yes, I'll say it's early many times tonight. Many of you will want to punch me for how often I say it. But there's like
Is it
3
early?
or 4 teams that aren't in the wild card race right now that are still very much going to be competitors throughout the season. You fall too far behind them. We saw what happened with the Padres last year when they fell behind for most of the season and tried to claw back late. Astros aren't careful. That'll be them this year.
You have to be careful too because the Rangers, as you said, they're one game over 500, but it sounds like they're getting good news on Max Scherzer, where he is going to be back earlier than expected because his rehab is going well. The Mariners, after a slow first 2 series, are starting to put it together a little bit, where they're back at 500, and you'd expect the Mariners to continue to play well. And a lot of people have slept on the Angels. I do think ultimately they are going to finish about where maybe a little bit more than people expected, but about around the same. But that they're also they've been a tough out right now. And I mean, if you're the Astros, you have the Athletics over you by 2 games. That should in itself say more than anything. But looking at their upcoming schedule, because I think this is obviously important. They have some tough series coming up. They have the Cubs for 3
April,
games
yes.
in April, yes. At Wrigley, they have the Cubs. Then they only have 2 games at Coors Field in Colorado. You would hope that they come out on top of that. They also, their projected starter for game 1 is Ronel Blanco, who has been so good. So you'd expect wins there.
With
Then
how
they
their
have the
offense is hitting,
Guardians.
with how their offense is hitting, that Colorado series is going to be a lot of runs scored.
Well, also how bad Colorado's pitching staff is, that'll play into effect. Then they have a 3-game series versus the Guardians, who have been really good. They have a 3-game series against the Mariners, and then they are in New York to face the Yankees. And that is the first week of May. So, there's some tough matchups there. Colorado, the easiest, obviously, out of those teams. But I mean, all those teams right now have been off to great starts. We expect them to be around playoff contention, if not in playoffs. And you're 7-16. I get that it's April, but you need to turn it around sooner than later because you do not want to get you don't want to get too far behind, especially in the division that they're in. I don't think you can afford to because you have 2 teams alone in your division that are going to be pushing for playoffs. So I think they got to turn around soon. I think out of this stretch that I just said, they have to find a way to go over 500 in that stretch, and come out better on the other side. But it has been a struggle right now for Houston, and it's just not expected. Again, a team that has been just a staple of the MLB. I get that there's the controversies with them and all, but they've been a staple for years now, and they still have, in my opinion, one of the best core fours or cores in general in the league. So you'd expect at some point in time they will turn around. John,
So,
what do you think is their key?
well, honestly, I think that their key is, like you said, you need in this next stretch. You're going to be facing some pretty good teams. That one's off to a really hot start in the Guardians. You have the Cubs that are around 500. You have the Rockies, which you should sweep. You should come away with tons of runs in those games. But then I remember you said the Yankees, you said the Mariners, and then I
Yep.
forget the third team. But those are series that are going to be tough, and their bullpen is if they don't fix it quick, their bullpen is going to bury them. And that's what I would be worried about if I am the Houston Astros or I'm an Astros fan. And something that you brought up is the you know is the scandal, the cheating scandal, the stealing signs. So this is really the first year without Dusty Baker since then, and was a big reason why I think that they were able to turn it around and turn that huge black eye into a World Series championship. Having him as your manager really made quite a difference for that team that was, is still getting booed relentlessly and having trash cans as like their immediate like sign for opposing fans. So, it would have been easy for a team to get swept away in that and get lost in all of that controversy and everything, but the Astros didn't, and I think a big part of that was Dusty Baker, and this is really the first time where they're facing adversity without him at the helm as their skipper. So, when it comes to their leadership, their manager needs to also, and their coaching staff needs to also make a difference here as well, and really needs to help improve. Otherwise, they can get buried real quick.
Yeah, I think anytime you lose a manager of Dusty Baker's quality, it's going to be tough. And I'm not going to give their current manager, like, I'm not going to bury him yet because you don't know. Now, we did have a conversation off air yesterday. We were talking about the Phillies and like team culture with managers and stuff like that. Could it be something there? I think it's way too early to tell, and I don't even want to speculate about it. But um, yeah, I mean, again, Dusty Baker it was a great manager, obviously, and losing him is tough, but this team should still be able to put it together. Like, again, you have your core four that have been there for a while. They're really, really good. It's a scary lineup, and your pitching, once healthy, is one of the best in the league. So,
They should be,
guess,
but as we also discussed, sometimes a manager can make all the difference. Look at the Phillies
yeah,
with
I
Joe
agree.
Girardi.
Yeah, I look, I agree. It's just I don't want to bury him yet because I don't know. I really don't with that. Like, again, something too early to tell. But regardless, let's move on over to another AL team in the Red Sox, who have had a nice start for their standard and what we kind of expected of them, because their pitching is unbelievable. Like, something that we have never seen right now. I mean, it's just been, maybe not that we've never seen. It has been crazy though. It's been really, really good. But the Red Sox have a very, very weird problem. They are they're leading like the league in ERA and all this stuff, but they are giving up a ton of unearned runs and they lead the league in errors. It is kind of just a weird thing. John, I'll go to you first because I know you've been very much anticipating this conversation. What do you make of this Red Sox drama?
I think that their pitching staff are a bunch of frauds. Honestly, I'm not gonna swing. I'm not gonna pull punches with this. I think that they're frauds. I don't think their ERA would be as impressive if they didn't have all those unearned runs against them. With an ERA like that, they should be leading the AL East. Meanwhile, they're like in third or fourth place. So, and I understand it's April, it's early, but you know the Red Sox, with how everyone is talking about their pitching staff, you would think that they're throwing, Cy Young, uh, Nolan Ryan, and Max Scherzer out there with how everyone's acting with this ERA. The fact of the matter is, when you look at their statistics, I believe it's what was it, 25 unearned runs. They've get
26, I think. Yeah, 20,
Okay,
59
26.
earned, 26 unearned.
That's ridiculous. Like, how why like you're giving up. It's like they found a new way to improve their team ERA, and that is just simply guys, if we don't give up earned runs, it won't count against us. Who cares?
If we don't play defense, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
It is funny.
And it's costing them. It has cost them games. I saw this firsthand when they played the Orioles. It's ridiculous. Like they have more errors than the Athletics, and the Athletics were at one point were on pace to have over 400 errors this season. So that should tell you something.
That number might have been a little inflated since they had 6 in a game, but that's here nor there.
Either way,
yeah. Look, they lead the majors in that. It goes without saying, but they're last in fielding percentage, and they have 4 players with 3 errors. So it's not just like one guy that can't play defense. It is a collective effort that we're just going to suck at playing defense. And, it is just funny because, again, they lead the majors in ERA, and it's not close. They're 32 points above second. They're third in WHIP and all this stuff. And you have 3 pitchers, 2 of them being starters, with under a 1 ERA. Carter Crawford, who's been lights out, is at a .66 ERA through 27 innings. You have Nick Pivetta, Phillies legend, .82 in 11 innings. And then in the relief spot, Justin Slayton with a .63 in 14 and a third inning. So, again, it does look impressive. Will, what is your stance on this? And the thing is, I would ask for a solution, but I don't even know what the fix is. Just play better defense.
Are you asking me right now about the consensus of them as a whole squad or just the pitching staff?
I think the pitching, just your take on it with how, I mean, it looks so good right now, but are they as good as people think?
So here's the stat line based on the teams they played that I just want to keep in mind about how good are they really. They've played the A's, Angels, Pirates, Guardians, Orioles, and Mariners to start the season. Against the A's, Angels, and Pirates, they are 10-2.
Don't you slander my Pirates.
They're doing it themselves.
Look at them.
Against everyone else, they are 3-8.
Yeah.
The Red Sox are also only 3-7 at home to start the season, and I believe I saw a stat that when you date back to last year, they've only won 3 of their last 18 games at home. This Red Sox team is living off of. It is good pitching. I understand John's feelings about being frauds, and that number as a ERA, as a pitching staff for their ERA is probably more like a point higher than it should be. But if you still tell me your team ERA is roughly 3.5, that's still an excellent stat line to have. Their offense is very home run heavy early. They lead, I believe, is it baseball or they're second in the MLB in home runs right now as a team, but they're 11th in the AL in average, tied for the MLB lead in strikeouts as a team. So they're clearly getting some advantage from the long ball early on, along with this pitching. The pitching will get a little worse. Again, they're not going to be sub 2, sub 1 ERA guys the entire season. And it seems like if the Red Sox come across a good pitching staff, they can kind of hold them steady offensively. So the Red Sox probably won't be as bad as I said they would be at the beginning of the season, which was pretty damn bad. But I think they could probably level out at around 500. Which will be very disappointing overall to the fan base. So the only consensus I could say is you better hope whatever luck you're having is staying, because odds are it's not looking like it would long term.
Well, yeah, and as John said, I think if you're going to have pitching stats as good as they've been, you better be better than 500, which, they're currently not. It's just funny because, again, how do you even diagnose this problem? It's just been, mistakes after mistakes. I remember watching the Angels series they were in earlier in the year, and it was just very, very bad fielding, just stupid errors, getting a ball over for a double play and dropping the ball, stuff like that just can't happen.
Well, that's another thing, is that I understand these aren't their star players and like their starters because they do have injury problems, but you know, you should still be able to do the basics.
Yeah. I and again, it's hard to diagnose. Like, our teams are going to have errors. I get that, but just the way things have been to start, it's just kind of unbelievable. And you just go through the ERA. Like Tanner Houck is also having a great year. He's got a 1.35 ERA through 26 innings. Garrett Whitlock 1.96. Like they have so many guys under 2, and yes, are those numbers maybe a bit, you know, inflated in a good way? Yes, but um yeah, they're just a weird team, man. Like they really are. You just kind of look at things and you look at how good their pitching has been, and it's just like how could they be, kind of where they're at. I'm actually curious to see what their upcoming schedule is because, Will, you had talked about, how easy it's been or how they've beat up on the so-called bad teams and stuff like that. So you'd expect that they're going to have some tougher games coming up, and they play in the AL East, which again is one of the tougher divisions in baseball. So they have a series against Cleveland coming up. Then they have the Cubs, they have the Giants, they have the Twins, and then they have the Braves. So some decent teams in there. So I think this will be a testament to, okay, how good is this team actually? Can they continue to keep this up from their arms? And I mean, it's been kind of crazy for the Red Sox right now. John, any last thoughts on the Red Sox?
On their in regards to their upcoming schedule, they're going to struggle because they're on the road in Cleveland. They have to go out west to San Francisco. Eastern teams always struggle out there. I feel they at least take a game to get their legs out there. Maybe it's to get adjusted, but anyway. And then who was after the Giants? I think it was it the Twins
The
or was
Twins,
it?
who are struggling right now as well.
Yeah, their pitching staff should be able to, do well against the Twins. Uh, when we talk about them, I'll explain why I think that. And then the last one was the Braves, and the Braves are just going to eat them, chew them up, and spit them out. You know, especially if they're at Atlanta. Which are they, or are they at home?
They are at home actually for that.
Okay,
Or sorry,
that
no,
might
they're
be
at
Record sucks.
they're at Atlanta. Excuse me, they are at Atlanta. Read that wrong.
okay. I stand by my statement. Then they're
I'm
going to chew
fine.
them up and spit them out. when it comes down to it, we are going to find out and I'm going to call this now. We're going to find out that the Red Sox are frauds. That their pitching rotation is going to get smacked. I'm calling it.
The
I think they
non-bias
do.
coming out of you right now is insane, I gotta say.
I don't know what you're talking about. I am completely not biased.
I think they have some good young names like that can be good. Now, are they going to be as good as their numbers are now? No, but they do have some promise there. Also, I don't think it matters where the Braves play the Red Sox. They could play essentially any team, like on the moon, in the ocean. It doesn't matter. They are going to spit them. Like they're going to chew them out. What did you say? Chew them up and spit them out.
Chew them up, spit them out. But no,
there you go.
If it was at Fenway, I would have given the Red Sox like at least a chance in one of the games. They're not even gonna have a chance.
By the way, Ty, I think we just
their stride.
I think we just came up with another solution to the Tommy John problem by just having everybody play on the moon, because there's no way you have to throw a baseball nearly as hard with that gravity versus what you have here on Earth.
I consider myself an innovator, and you're seeing it in live time. I mean, I talked about the pitching machine, the
All right, you can shut up
limit.
right now.
I got
pitching
absolutely
machine, move the mound up.
We could have a pitching machine on the moon. And everybody's okay with that, I think. So, yeah, it's going to be telling for the Red Sox. We talk about the stupidest stuff on this show, but we will have to see.
The moon, on the moon, Mars, Jupiter. It doesn't matter. The Braves are going to chew up the Red Sox and spit them out.
let's go to the team that we were talking about briefly. I swear, Will's faces when we're on this show just makes me crack up. Let's go over to the
It
Guardians.
gets redder and redder the more I have to deal with.
I
this
love it.
bullshit.
I love it. I love the
he puts his
more.
head down, like, oh my god.
You know what I love? I love this. Whenever he wears his red hat, his face ends up matching the shade of that red hat.
Because I'm rubbing my face
Makes
that
even
much.
better.
Like, God, what am I hearing?
Dude, that's so screwed up too because Will has been playing with his white balance since he got on at 6:45 this evening, and then of course now we're saying he's got matching reds on him. This is messed up from my perspective. Holy.
Hey, we said he had rosy cheeks, and he was out on the golf course yesterday. He's got a little bit of a tan coming in.
Yeah, when we were playing in 54.
Turn that off. Turn that off. Turn that off. Turn that off. No.
Oh my goodness.
For audio
let's go over to the
listeners, since we have to
Guardians.
say that now, he turned on like the reddest red filter ever, and it just God, I hate it.
He put a solo cup over a light
Bumped up
bulb.
saturation.
Yeah. We're just we're trying to tell you that this guy hates our guts and he's regretting every decision he's made to get on the show.
Hey,
All right,
listen,
are we
you
ready
are
for the
not-
Guardians? Am I gonna get cut off?
Hold on. But for our visual listeners out there, you will know this
Visual
because you can just
listeners,
look at
that's-
Will's face, and he just wants to kill everybody. Just based on his
Visual listeners.
John looks like he wants
Yeah,
to cry half
for-
the time if we're going to go
for-
to that level.
face. Yeah,
I wanna
for
cry right
our
now.
audio listeners, yeah, Will has a "I hate you all" face all the time.
And they're starting to
Guardians.
learn why I have it all the time.
The Guardians, 16-6 to start the season for them. They're hitting the ball pretty well. Stephen Kwan is apparently the best batter of all time, to step aside Babe Ruth, and yeah, I mean Stephen Vogt coming in. Vogt, I forget how to say his name, but Stephen Vogt comes in and he has done a phenomenal job over there in Cleveland, just absolutely tearing it up. Will, I'll go to you first, my man. I know you're having a tough time right now, but what can you say about those Cleveland Guardians?
Good for you, Sportos.
You're giving me nothing to work with. Nothing.
It's April.
All
It
right,
doesn't
well,
matter.
this is what you got to work with. They're hitting well above expectations. Their pitching is doing really good. They've only played 5 games against teams in their division so far. 3 of them were against the White Sox. So they're 4-1. They want to keep this up. Just keep beating the teams in your division because that apparently seems to be the road to success to win the AL Central.
Hey, we talked about how important that was going to be for the Tigers, and this is a division now where it is going to be close. I think the Royals, I don't know, are they going to be a team that sticks around? I think the Tigers are going to. I think the Twins are going to bounce back. So for the Guardians, you have to beat your division, and again, right now they're doing a pretty good job altogether. Obviously, on the year, you look at the teams they played; it's not anything crazy. Like you had a 4-game set with Oakland, you had a 3-game set with the White Sox. So right there in just 7 games, you're playing some pretty bad teams. Although Oakland has been playing better than people have thought, so I'll give them that. But they had Seattle
100%
early in the
Mr.
year.
Miller.
Okay, you guys said that at the same time. Yeah, I mean Seattle, we're struggling, so it is interesting with them. But again, they are hitting really well right now. I think they're also coming up clutch a lot of the times. Like they had a series against the Yankees where they were getting those timely hits. John, what is your outlook right now for the Guardians after such a hot start?
So right now, I mean, obviously, I did not pick them to win their division by any stretch of the imagination. I still don't think that they're going to. Honestly, I am leaning towards Tyler's answer here. With the Tigers.
Get on board,
so
baby.
I'm they're just a fun team to watch. Anyway, point is when it comes to the Guardians, their team that like as a team, they are first or not first. There we go, third in batting average in the American League. Their slugging percentage, they are second. On base percentage, they are fourth. They're not walking a lot, but they're getting timely hits. They're third in hits, first in doubles, third in triples, and fifth in home runs, and first in overall runs scored. I think you said it. I think you said it best. Timely hitting is what is helping this offense and helping this team. Um, Honestly, they're just playing. They're tearing the cover off the ball. It could be who they've played, but I can tell you right now, after watching the Red Sox series that they played up in Fenway, it was a lot of timely hitting, and it was coming in extra innings. It was coming in late, like an eighth or the ninth inning. They only lost one of those games, I believe. Out of I think it was a 4-game set. So when it comes down to it, the Guardians are playing some good baseball right now, and I don't know how this season will turn out for them. Who knows if they can keep this up? Who knows what will happen when they face real competition here? But or at least consistently, I should say. But their division between the Royals and the Tigers, they have two young and very, with lack of a better word, feisty teams that they're gonna have to compete with here, and then maybe the Twins can turn it around. The White Sox are on pace for the worst record in baseball, so whatever. Anyway, but yeah, when it comes to the AL Central, it will be interesting. It might not be the Comedy Central this year, but we'll have to see.
I was just gonna say that because I got flamed last week for they're a fun division. Well, it's the Comedy Central. This division has actually legitimately been fun to watch. I don't know why, but there's just some fun teams. The stat that kind of gets me is the slugging percentage being as high as it is for them, being fifth in the league, because we had talked about that last year for them, is they were not hitting home runs. Their slugging percentage and their OPS, I believe, was like bottom 5 in the league, and that was a big problem for them. And they really didn't change that much, their lineup wise. Like, so it is a bit surprising to see where they're at. And I think, as Will said, maybe that's where the numbers come down, because it's going to be really hard to sustain for them. But I mean, you have Josh Naylor right now, who's been unbelievable. And he's really carrying that. Like, he's at a 623 slugging percentage himself, and maybe that's bringing it up. But like, even Stephen Kwan, who's not, he was kind of like, a singles machine and just get on base guy. Like, he's doing it at 474. It's kind of crazy. And the other thing that's very interesting to me is they're winning games with their best player, Jose Ramirez. Like, he's been okay, he's been average, but you'd expect at some point he's going to turn it up. And that, to me, is the scary part about this Cleveland team. Like, are these numbers going to come down a little bit? I understand that, but I think other players are going to start to pick it up as well. And I personally think like they could continue to play some pretty good baseball here and maybe get themselves in good position. And in this division, anything can really happen. So I wouldn't put it out of the question for them to win this division. It's April 22nd. I understand that. I'm kind of already tired of saying, "Oh, it's early." I know it's early. It's so overstated though. But I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, what is your thoughts on that? Because, like, again, to me, it's just scary to think that this team could get better potentially.
You got to credit Josh Naylor for being the fill-in Jose Ramirez at the moment, the way he's putting up offensive numbers. No, I mean, the Guardians team they're kind of an unpredictable team when it comes to making early season predictions. 2 years ago, did they actually win the division 2 years ago? Or did they just make it into the playoffs?
Yes.
Either way, they had
Yeah,
around 90 wins, which I don't think anyone really
they won the
expected.
division.
And then last year, they kind of vanished. So there's maybe they did figure out something. Maybe there's certain veterans that are taking that step up, that are filling in offensively for whatever struggles they had last year as a squad. Pitching staff, I think they're right at where some people could have predicted them to be. They had a lot of talent. Had some injury issues last year. Yes, they lost Bieber this year. But I still feel like they're able to fill in for him there. With the Twins struggling as much as they are, this division very early is up for grabs. The Guardians are just the team they're beating everyone. They've beaten some good teams, some bad teams. They're just going out there and playing good baseball.
They just about playing some good baseball out there. Their pitching has been really good too. Top 5 in ERA. So I think there's definitely an argument there to say, hey, man, look at this lineup. It doesn't come down there. Similar to what we're saying about the Astros. Look at that lineup. They have to turn it around. They have so much star power. Maybe that's the same thing with the Guardians, but I do think they have some sneaky good pieces that can continue to hit well for them. And if their pitching can stay on this plane, even if it dips a little bit, stay on this plane, that they can cause some teams some problems. But I mean, right now they're just absolutely killing it, right? Like best record in
Best
baseball, and
yeah.
I mean, what else are you supposed to say about that? I mean, like they are the best team right now, and it's just not expected. So we'll see if they can continue that because they have been just flying right now. Staying in the AL Central, let's talk about the Twins, who is it their division anymore? I had my questions about this Twins team coming into the season, and it is rearing its ugly head. John, there's a lot of glaring issues here, batting being one of them, and man, they got to turn around soon. But what is your thoughts on what is happening in Minnesota right now?
Honestly, their pitching has been mid, but they talk about the polar opposite here for this division. You have the Guardians who are tearing the cover out the ball. Then you have the Twins who they are just not hitting. They are 14th in hits, 12th in doubles, tied for third in triples, and 13th in home runs. As far as stolen base, they are 15th. That is last in the American League. Then you have their batting average as a team is they are 14th. On base percentage is 13th, and their slugging percentage is 14th. You know they're towards the bottom here in the American League. Uh, when it comes down to just this was their division to lose, and it looks like they are doing that. You know, you have Buxton, and he has to stay healthy. He has to make a difference, and right now he really isn't making that much of a difference. He's only uh only batting 217 at the moment. You know, he has an on base percentage of 247. Then you have Correa, who is hurt, who was batting 306, but you know he's only played in 11 games. So when it comes down to it, the Twins need to turn this around. Otherwise, what could have been the easiest division in baseball could get away from them, and they could be looking at a fourth place finish. You know, because the Royals, they're playing with speed, with power, and timely hitting, and their pitching is not bad either. Then you have the Tigers, who are a young, plucky group who are going to, who could be real competition here. And then we just talked about the Guardians, who are tearing the cover off the ball, and their pitching is keeping them in games, to say the least. So when you look at it, this could get away from the Twins real quick, and they need to turn things around. And I don't think they're going to be able to, honestly.
I just, again, my whole thing with them was their problem is going to be in their pitching. Like they lose Sonny Gray, and you kind of look at like their pitchers there, and they're like, it's kind of a lot of guys that are not all that well known or established, and then it's really has been the hitting. Like they are horrible right now. I mean their team batting average at the moment is less than it's a buck. They're hitting a $1.95 as a team. Like that is just you can't win like that.
You can't win when you're not hitting as a team above the Mendoza line.
Yeah, like
gee.
that's ridiculous. Their OPS as a whole is bottom, and again, like they're hovering with the White Sox. If you're around where the White Sox are, that's very bad. So it's not it's not good right now, and I understand they've had some injuries, right? And that's going to be a big thing. The big one, and I didn't think it was going to be as bad as it's kind of been, or he wasn't going to be out this long, as Royce Lewis. He gets injured in the first game of the season, and this was a guy that had a lot of promise for them last year. Was going to be one of the big guys this year. He's still out, and I'm assuming they're going to potentially get him back maybe here in the next 2 or 3 weeks, but that's been tough. Correa's been out. Duran's been out in the back end, so it has just been nonstop for them. But from your standpoint, Will, what do they need to do as a team to turn this around, or just in general, what are your opinions on the Twins?
They are a team the last few years, which I believe this surprised all three of us when we were looking at preseason stuff predicting for the team and what they've done in the past, is they've been a home run team. They are 13th in the AL in home runs this year. They're not doing what the Red Sox are doing right now, which is having great, obviously they're not having great pitching, but hitting the snot out of the ball and leading the league in home runs. So that was probably the team's hope entering the season, was that their offense would overcome whatever pitching challenges they had and be enough to win the division. And they are failing on every front offensively. Now, their stretch coming up could be the real factor as to whether or not this team does show signs of rewriting the early story, or whether they are bound to be doomed for the season. Over the next 10 games, they play the White Sox and the Angels. If the team wants to get to 500 at the end of that stretch, they need to go 8-2. It's not unrealistic, especially when the White Sox name is thrown around in that mix. But if they do anything around 500 over that stretch and still find themselves 3-4 games under 500, you then got to question what's going on, because they should absolutely pummel those pitching staffs if they do believe that their offense is good enough to put up power numbers. Yes, the injuries early on have hurt them. I felt like they probably had enough youth behind them to at least fill in for those injured players. But I mean, yeah, the Twins division, it was their division to lose. They're a tricky team to kind of predict early on because they've had a history of choking. I have very little faith in this team right now, especially because they have three teams ahead of them, at least two I see competitive for the division. So pray that the home run ball comes quick, and when it comes, it lasts.
Yeah. It is just, it's kind of crazy looking at this, because one of the guys that was absolutely killing it in spring training, and there's a lot of talk about him, was Edouard Julien. He is not having a good start to the year. He leads their team in plate appearances and is batting a .179. So that's been tough. And Buxton, like another guy who, he's such a good player, and everybody was just like, man, we just want to see this guy for a full season. He's electric. He's had a slow start. So it's everybody has been bad at the same time for the Twins, and they need to start getting those bats hot again, because as you said, they have a very favorable schedule. In the next week and a half, they're going to play the White Sox 7 times. I would imagine that they can get close to 8-2 in that stretch and get themselves back up and into this division race. But this has to be the series where they get the bats hot. Like, if you're not going to get the bats hot against the White Sox, then it's going to be a long year, because their rotation and their bullpen are absolutely trash. You need to get something going here. These guys that were projected to have these big years need to get things going, because it just right now it cannot be. You can't bat like this and expect to make the playoffs, even if your division is as mid as they've been for the past couple of years. The division is getting better, and the Twins, are they falling off? I mean, it's been their division for so long. They've had such a stranglehold on this division. They got to start doing something quickly to get themselves back into this one. John, any last remarks on the Twins or anything else you found in your research?
Honestly, it just comes down to their hitting, like we've been saying. It's we can beat this dead horse all we want, but if they don't turn this around, then this division is lost, and 2024 is a lost season for them because, as we said at the beginning of this season, when we were making our picks, wildcard teams are not going to be coming from the AL Central. They're just not. You have to win the division in order to get in the playoffs, and right now you are not playing good enough to be anywhere close to that. So, if the White Sox were not as bad as they are, the Twins could be in fifth place. But thankfully for them, the White Sox are atrocious. So they have this chance here to turn this around, and if they don't, this division is going to get away from them because the Royals are not going to stop. Not with Bobby Witt Jr. and not with Salvador Perez. Yeah. I always get him mixed up with Pedro Severino. I think it's the SP and the PS. Anyway, sorry, I wanted to try and catch myself before I sounded too dumb. Anyway, point is when you can really lose this division with how competitive these other teams are and how up and coming these other teams are. You can lose this division if you're not careful. So you're going to want to turn this one around.
I think the one last thing I want to say about them is coming into this season, I had questions about their third outfield spot. That is becoming an issue early. Matt Wallner in a somewhat limited sample size, and I think I don't know if it's been injury or they benched him because he's batting less than 100 on the year. Now that's in 33 at bats, but I had questions about that. I really thought they were going to be the team that re-signed, that went out and in their case re-signed Michael A. Taylor, who hasn't been setting the world on fire or anything. But yeah, I had questions about that spot, and then when you're also not getting contributions from the guys that you kind of relied on, like your Edward Julians, Ryan Jeffers behind the plate, as well, and a little bit of the case. And I know Correa has been out, but he's been good for them. It's just like you need your guys to produce. That is the bottom line. You need the people that you rely on to produce. If Warner comes in and bats, whatever 220 for the rest of the year, and you have contributions for other spots, that's fine. But when he's batting, as bad as he is, and everybody else is as well, like, I'm not putting all the blame on him. I just had questions about that position, and now that's a question for them and really their roster up and down as a whole. So, Will, any last remarks on the Twins, or are you ready to move on?
Pray for them.
Goodness gracious. And with that, let's move on to our last topic, and another one of the City Connect jerseys coming out. A very, very interesting design for sure on this one, but the New York Mets released their City Connect jerseys last week, and to be honest, I actually haven't seen a lot of discussion online about this because I really did think they were going to get flamed for this, but I'll put it this way: it's a very interesting design, and as John said, literally based off of concrete, or the inspiration was concrete. What did you say? I forget.
That their inspiration was seeing their name in concrete.
Yeah,
that is quote from the team and in their marketing campaign.
So I have they. I don't know if they've worn these uniforms yet, because I know
No,
it
not yet.
would have been okay. I kind of want to see these in full because I don't hate them as much as I think I should. If that makes sense, I don't know. Like, it's weird.
You brought up the flack that they haven't been getting. I think that's just because the City Connect jerseys across the board have been relatively bad. So these aren't as bad as some of the other ones, and it You guys aren't gonna like this, but I would say it's probably better than the Phillies City Connect jersey. At
Oh, I
least the
agree
pants are
100%.
different.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't talking to you, Ty. I was talking to the Phillies fans
Oh,
on the
sorry.
podcast.
I just figured I
Um,
had to butt in.
yeah. Thank you, as a fellow non-Phillies fan, for agreeing with me. But in terms of the City Connects, this isn't the worst, but it's definitely not the best, and that's not a high bar to clear. So at least the pants are different. It
Well,
it just
John, we know you're happy. They're using white pants. That automatically makes you
I'm
happy.
sorry, if they were gray pants, it would look
It would
terrible.
be terrible. I'll give you that. And you have to be careful with gray jerseys. That's why I'm surprised I don't hate them as much as I do, because like gray jerseys I feel like never play well, but I think this
I just
jersey
thought of
could use.
this. What are they going to
Yeah,
do when they play at home? Are they going to make the away team either wear their alternates or
probably.
wear their white jerseys?
I think that happens a lot more now though, cuz like the Pirates, for example, like will wear their black jerseys a lot for away games and stuff like that. So like, and sometimes they'll even wear like, well, I was gonna say yellow jerseys, but that's definitely not true. So I don't know. I think again this could be worse. I think this jersey actually, I think it would do a little bit better if I had just a tad more purple in it. I think it'd look sick,
Uh,
but I mean,
it
I don't
looks
know.
for how much their marketing pushed the purple. I'm surprised it's lacking in purple. In all
Yeah.
Mhm.
honesty, like I
Yep.
think they could have done
Yep.
purple pinstripes, and it might have helped them not look like uh, the Twins road jerseys. But
I like the
it's
texture they have on the gray. Like I think that's good. Like the little black specks, like it is almost concrete. Like I just think that looks pretty cool.
it's
You know what
Maybe
though?
interesting.
that's why the gray's good.
It's funny though because like you mentioned the whole like purple like and how it seemed like that they were really aiming for doing some stuff with the purple. Here's the thing. You go on like the MLB's like press release for these things now and there is like not a single thing besides like the logo that is purple. Like it is like this full on like monochrome looking deck. I'll pull it up here in a
Mhm.
second. Hold on. Let me try to find it.
Well, my whole
Like
thing is like their biggest thing was like the logo turned from orange to purple in it. So
yeah,
maybe that's
and what I mean
why
is
I'm
like
saying that.
there's this, but then they're like, and then there's I don't care about the video, but and like I feel like there's more purple in the market deck
Yeah.
than there is
Yeah.
like the actual jersey, which I thought was like really strange, especially since like they're doing where is it? It says it like specifically somewhere. I think it's up here. Like the whole
Like
the
why
concrete
they're doing
jungle,
the
like our
purple.
rock at the concrete jungle. Like no, it talks more about the gray than the purple. Like
Yeah.
it literally
Yeah.
talks more about the concrete look than the purple does. Yet their whole deck is like purple colored. I just thought it was
I
interesting.
think if they replaced like a lot of the white with purple and they went for more of like a black, gray, purple concept, I think maybe that could have looked cooler. It's hard for me to kind of visualize, but um what are your guys' thoughts on the hat? Because like I don't that's the one part of the jersey I'm not sure if I hate or love. Like it because it's kind of cool,
So
but it's also kind of weird looking.
I'm not crazy about it. I don't like it when there's like stripes going across. I don't like it when hats have like stripes or like have sometimes teams will have like a border here like going
Yeah.
across. I'm not a fan of that, but that's my style. Somebody might like that with the bridge going across and might not care about stripes like I do, but I think honestly, when it comes to the hat, the Phillies hat, I think is definitely better. When it comes to the jersey, I think this jersey is a little bit better than Phillies, but I mean that's not saying much.
You know what? You know what? You know what? I'll actually defend the hat a little bit. I like the bridge on the hat a lot, like a lot.
It's just like
I actually like this.
Like I
I don't
said,
know
it's
what
not
it
my
is.
style.
Oh yeah, no, I
That
know.
that
I'm just saying. I do think the Phillies hat is still better, but I do like the hat design. I think I'm more than I like the jersey by a lot.
Yeah,
I don't even
I
know
agree with
what
that.
I don't like about it. It's like it's just something that's kind of weird to me, but I couldn't even pinpoint it. Like
Maybe the
I don't
fact
know
I
that
if
think the
it's
it's because
gray.
scaling up. I think
yeah,
it's
the
the
scaling
scaling of
up.
the logo
Yeah,
in proportion of the bridge is my thing. So the Mets
yeah.
jersey overall is probably one of the most traditional looking jerseys out of any of the City Connect unis, and they pretty much went with a pretty basic standard looking like New York logo. I don't even know if they changed it other than the colors. Um, but the scaling of it, the way that there's this slight overlap at the bottom, just makes me feel like either one with the bridge setup, it's meant to have more of a landscape logo that kind of is presenting it, or that the NY needs to be either moved up a bit or scaled down just a little. So it looks more framed in by the bridge rather than this little overlap, and I think that's what's throwing it off.
It does
Yeah,
feel a little
I agree
overcrowded,
with
and
that.
maybe that's why. And also, like, kind of how the sides curve up. Like, to me, I think it just feels. Bobby, can you go back to like the one of the player pictures? I just want to look again. Like, to
Yeah,
me,
give me
I
one
feel
second.
like it's just
The
a
players
little
look
crowded.
pissed having to wear these jerseys. By the way,
Well, they always do.
they
They're
look
always like,
No,
miserable.
they certainly were
men.
told. No, yeah, I was gonna say they definitely were told like, oh, we're talking about like concrete jungle, like we're gritty, we're this, we're that. Look serious, no smiling allowed in the slightest capacity. So they were 100% told that. I'm
Yeah,
trying to find
New
the
York.
a
picture here.
difference between trying to look tough and looking like somebody's threatening your family. You know,
They're bad
Oh,
actors.
sure.
That's why they're ball players.
Yeah,
like,
I don't
This
know.
is true.
I think you're on to something about the logo being too close. I think it's that's messing me up. Like, it's something about it is like too like crowding maybe. I don't know. I'm kind of convincing myself like right now though. I actually really like these jerseys. That's why I kind of want to see how they look actually on the field, but for some reason I kind of mess with these jerseys and I didn't expect to because again, I'm not a big fan of gray jerseys, but he's
when
kind of are pretty good to me.
when you look at these jerseys, it looks like they're trying to represent, like they're trying to make up for the Yankees, not getting one.
Lack
I
of, yeah.
guess.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it
100%.
it yeah, that's what it looks like to me. It looks like, oh, we need to combine both the Mets and the Yankees into these jerseys and be one New York City, Whereas,
Yeah.
as we talked about yesterday, off, the Mets only really represent Queens and like a little bit of, I guess, a little bit of Brooklyn, I guess.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure
But
about that, yeah.
Well, we
well, I
talked
know
yesterday
that the
about off
blue
air.
is Dodger blue, but yeah.
We talked off air though. The big thing that was the comparison to this was the Mets came out in their press release and said that they tried to make the uniform more about the city and not about their, because it's supposed to be City Connect. But if you look at like Chicago, they had no problem being like, no, we're this part of Chicago.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we're Wrigleyville. We're the South Side. We're not Chicago.
Yeah.
I gotta
It
ask
is
this
funny, yeah.
question though. Like, so what would you do for a Yankees City Connect jersey? What would I mean? I'm asking a bunch of non-New Yorkers, but like, what would you guys do for a Yankees City Connect jersey? What do you put
So
on it? Right? You have to do like
so
all the
I would.
championships in some
Hold on,
capacity,
hold on,
right?
hold on, hold on. I would make it white with navy blue pinstripes and navy blue logo right here, on over the heart.
shut up.
Um,
I said this before, and of course John wasn't on board because it wasn't white pants. But I said just invert the colors, make it a like I think that navy blue would play well, and then have white pinstripes coming down. And he was like, no. And would that look like the White Sox?
What the
Probably,
South Side did.
but yeah, but I don't know. I think that
Chicago.
would look kind of cool. But again, John, maybe we could have the pinstripes going horizontal. How about that?
oh yeah,
Like
make them look
the old
make them look
pirate.
like prisoners. Yeah,
Yeah,
Look
no,
like
screw
prisoners.
that. Just put them diagonal. Just put them on a 45 and just have it wrap around like everything, dude. Make them look like what's the thing that hangs outside barbershops? What's that thing called? Like, there's a
I know
name
you're
for it.
talking
You know
about,
what I'm
yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, we know. Yeah, do that. Why not? Or like, the Yankees can just lay into the fact that they think they're America's team for baseball, so just make it a red, white, and blue jersey. There you go. Look at Will.
Oh
I
God,
love
there
this.
are jokes that are not meant for this show that I could make about who would buy those jerseys. That's all I'm saying about that one.
Make the jerseys
And
have
with
some
that,
money.
and yeah, there you go. I like that idea. And with that,
You know, it's ironic.
we'll
A
wrap
lot
up
of
the
those
show
people
here.
don't root for the Yankees.
Well, let's not touch that subject with a 39.5 foot pole. Yeah, we're gonna wrap up the show there. Another one in the books, and we appreciate you guys. I'm gonna send it over to Bobby for some more Spotify news though before we close this out.
Yeah, dumb little thing. So forgive me. Hey, so just wanted to let you guys know that we actually do have our podcast live on Spotify. We're still catching up. We're only like a few episodes away of being fully up to date. So keep an eye on that. For those of you watching here on YouTube, the link for it will be in the description. And for those of you who are like very special podcast listeners, use like your own app or whatever because podcast listeners are insane. There is an RSS feed ready for you to plug into whatever app you want to choose. That is also in the description of our YouTube videos and will be going forward. We should be natively available on Apple and Amazon and a few other places in the coming days, probably by tomorrow, to be quite honest with you. And it was just a pain because I was uploading incredibly old episodes before this was a baseball podcast, and those files were a lot bigger than these ones, so it took me a little while, and I don't have a great upload out here. It's a reason we're doing more live shows these days. But anyway, we are on Spotify. We are actually on video on Spotify as well, so you can listen on Spotify, but you can also watch on Spotify and other podcast services because it is a video RSS feed. So I just wanted to give you guys an update since we talked about that last week. But yeah, we're good to go. So Tyler, why don't we close this one out here, huh?
And we appreciate everybody who's showed us love on the clips. You can follow us on Twitter at BL_breakdowns and on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and basically everywhere else at Big League Breakdowns. We will see you next time for episode 14 of the podcast. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.